Welcome, everyone, to the Uncanny Valley podcast. I'm really glad you could join us today. We're heading into some pretty deep, shadowy corners of history, pulling back the curtain on things maybe we weren't supposed to see. Get ready, because things might get a little strange.
That's right. We're digging into, well, layers of secret operations, forgotten events, things hidden just under the surface. And these aren't just stories. We're looking at documented accounts, echoes of a war against, well, forces far stranger than anything conventional. It really challenges our idea of reality.
Exactly. And our mission today, yours and ours, is to explore this collection of documents we've managed to piece together. Some are declassified, some are still just rumored, some maybe had names left in by mistake. We're tracing the story of this shadow conflict, focusing on the lore around a program called Delta Green. You'll hear about government units set up for the weirdest reasons, scientific experiments gone horribly wrong, twisting reality itself, and the human cost. The profound cost of facing these truths. It's not just history, it feels very current.
It really does. And as we look through this material, a theme emerges, doesn't it? This constant, subtle creep of the uncanny into everyday life. And it highlights these individuals, these extraordinary people, sometimes knowingly, sometimes not, who end up on the front lines, grappling with things that just defy easy explanation. So prepare for maybe some aha moments, some surprising connections that might just shift how you see history. There's always more beneath the surface, and yeah, often more to be wary of.
Okay, let's dive right in. Where does this all start? This idea of a secret war, we have to talk about Delta Green. It's a name that, for many, brings up these images of, conspiracies, shadowy figures, cosmic horror. But what if the actual start was, well, documented? Maybe less mythic, but just as bizarre. The records we've seen point to a real program with that name, a psychological operations unit during World War II.
That's a really crucial starting point. These documents, some available publicly, maybe with that name Delta Green, accidentally unredacted, they show this unit had a profoundly unusual mission, officially, to exploit the bizarre occult beliefs of Axis leaders. Now, just pause on that for a second. Think about what that actually means. This wasn't about tanks or planes or battlefield strategy. It was a shadow game, a psychological fight using the Axis's own esoteric fears, their mystical ideas as weapons.
Right. The idea that a government during total war would actually try to leverage occult beliefs, not just dismiss them, that's a big shift.
It is. And it connects directly to the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, which of course was the forerunner to the CIA. The OSS was shut down after the war, sure, but key people went on to start the CIA in '47. So the question hangs there. Did the lessons from this early Delta Green, this insight into psych warfare and maybe the reality of weird threats, did that somehow inform the CIA's later, more notorious psychological operations, MKUltra and things like that? Could it have shaped how they approached UFOs, other unexplained stuff later on? The historical line seems pretty clear. There's an institutional memory there.
It really makes you wonder. Imagine the files. What could possibly be in the records of a unit like that? What does success even look like for them? Did they actually, influence Nazi leaders through seances or something? The very idea of that kind of hidden influence during such a brutal war, it's deeply unsettling. A whole hidden layer to the conflict we never really consider. Fighting for humanity's soul, maybe literally.
And naturally, the lore, the stories that grew up around this, suggest that was just the start. You hear from conspiracy theorists, and sometimes their ideas tap into something real, that Delta Green came back after the war, but with a new, maybe darker focus, tracking down Nazis, not just for war crimes trials, but because of what they represented, that lingering threat of occult knowledge, forbidden power.
So a kind of specialized Nazi hunting unit.
More than that, according to these accounts. This revamped Delta Green supposedly brought together federal agents, spies, special forces, for missions considered too secret even for the CIA. There are even rumors it was a precursor, maybe even a rival, to Majestic 12, the supposed group dealing with aliens after Roswell. That escalation of the narrative hints at just how extraordinary the threats were perceived to be, moving beyond psych warfare into something cosmic.
So connect that to the post-war chaos. It's not just about finding escaped SS officers. It's about finding what they knew, what they might have uncovered or created. Forbidden knowledge. Which takes us right into this specific account, looking at Operation Paperclip, but from a darker angle. Our sources mention a librarian, of all people, tasked after the war with finding an SS officer, Dr. Paul Diddle.
SS Obersturmbannführer Diddle, yes.
And Diddle, under British interrogation in '45, admitted he was obsessed with finding books. But not just any books. He wanted masses of books on occultism, anthroposophy, telepathy, European and Oriental religious sects.
Yeah, hardly standard military intelligence gathering, is it? It strongly suggests a much deeper, more esoteric kind of intelligence operation was underway.
Absolutely. And
Yep.
the hunt didn't start with diddle.
No, it extended to others.
No.
People like Hans Richter and Friedrich Sukup.
Yeah.
Both tied to something called the Hexenkartothek.
Which was, exactly.
Essentially, a massive Nazi card index.
Yeah.
Cataloging information on witches, folklore, occult practices, meticulously detailed. They were also after Hermann Milder, known as Himmler's mystic, a key figure in the Nazi regime's dabbling the arcane. And there's a particularly chilling detail from Sukup's confession about Neufalkenburg Castle. He talked about presences there,
Yeah.
beings contained within the images in the castle, like trapped in paintings or photos.
Wow.
And he mentioned a dead mountain holding secrets that, if they got out, would mean the end of all we've worked for.
Yeah.
This wasn't just academic curiosity about the occult. It felt like a real, tangible threat to, well, everything.
And it wasn't just the Allies interested, was it?
Not at all. The sources show a Soviet colonel, Gliukin, was also hunting Richter, which tells you that multiple world powers, not just the West, knew about this forbidden research. They knew about these potential artifacts. The idea that the most dangerous legacy of the Nazis wasn't just their ideology or personnel, but their occult research, their potential discoveries, and that shadowy groups were scrambling for it after the war. That's a deeply unsettling thought.
And a powerful starting point for this whole hidden history.
It really sets the stage, because this is where you start seeing how easily ordinary life gets contaminated,
Yeah.
corrupted by these forces.
Yeah, our sources give a really compelling example here, The Color of Dust. It talks about something called Project Increase. We meet Marion Prentice. She's a photographer documenting Dust Bowl farmers. Seems like a normal, even noble job for the time.
A good cover story, as the text puts it.
Exactly. But it's hiding her real assignment. She's attached to a Dr. LaFleur's pilot project, supposedly to help the farmers.
Sounds benevolent, right? Especially during the Dust Bowl, a time of such hardship. But like you said, the mundane often masks the horror.
Totally. Because the project's real goal is, well, it's adding this special fertilizer directly to the water the farmers use for irrigation.
Sounds innocent enough. Agricultural science.
But Marion starts experiencing these really unsettling things. Her senses go haywire.
She looks at the catch pool water where they mix this stuff, and the color is all wrong. An anti-color, she calls it. Gives her terrible headaches.
And the food grown with it. LaFleur and his assistant Hart think it's fine. But to Marion, it tastes like rot. It's oily and near rancid.
That difference in perception is key, isn't it? It signals she's experiencing a distorted reality that others aren't. She's sensitive to it. Makes her the perfect, unwitting observer.
A classic sign, this subtle twisting of the familiar, affecting senses first.
And her senses are leading her to something awful.
Yeah, she eventually finds this thing in the catch pool, described as shining like 1,000 needles of light.
An entity. Something utterly alien.
And what's truly horrifying is LaFleur and Hart. They believe this thing invigorates the plants, and they willingly sacrifice a farmer, Francis, to it, like some kind of grotesque pseudoscientific ritual.
It's chilling. It's not just a hidden monster story. It's about how desperation, combined with uncanny influence, can lead to solutions far worse than the original problem.
Yeah.
The ethical lines just vanish.
And then comes the twist. LaFleur's secretary, Mrs. Vicker, seems perfectly normal.
Until she reveals she's an agent, working for P4, some kind of covert group. And she calls the creature what it is. A fossil, a cancer that thinks.
And Marion, just a miner's canary, sent in to see what the effects were.
Exactly. Which immediately links this seemingly isolated incident in the Dust Bowl to a bigger picture, a network. Even back then, someone was tracking these things, trying to understand them.
And Vicker mentions Innsmouth.
Yes. She refers to what happened in Innsmouth, and Marion having a small part there. Now, Innsmouth, for anyone familiar with this lore, that's a cornerstone event. A place where the veil thinned, cosmic horror breaking through. So this connects Project Increase to that larger pattern. These threats aren't new, they're ancient, always encroaching, often using human institutions, human desperation as their way in.
Okay, so the threat isn't just localized, it starts spreading. We move forward in time, the Cold War is heating up, and the menace becomes, well, global and maybe more insidious. It's not just changing landscapes, it's infecting minds.
Right. Our sources take us to post-WWII Paris, An American agent there, caught up in typical spy stuff, investigating stolen artifacts. Starts familiar, like you said, but quickly goes sideways.
How so?
With the arrival of Wang Du Norbu, a young Asian man. He's looking for artifacts stolen years earlier by a Nazi expedition to Tibet. Ernst Schaeffer's 1938 trip.
Okay, stolen artifacts. Still sounds like espionage.
But these aren't just treasures, they're vessels for something much worse. Turns out, a former SS officer, Kruger, became a carrier for what Norby calls a dark terma.
A dark terma, what's that?
Well, terma in Tibetan Buddhism usually means hidden teachings, sacred objects. So a dark terma implies something corrupted, malevolent, like a spiritual contagion, a bug, as Norby puts it, and the horror it brings. It culminates in this one building in Paris, where 18 people, all in the same building, took their own lives at the same time. No clear reason, just mass suicide.
18 people simultaneously. That defies explanation, points to some kind of psychic contamination.
And the agent investigating feels it too, this spreading influence. The apartment where it happened felt bleached, sterile. The bathroom was covered in blood, painted bright red and dripping, and this foul stench clinging to everything. And the agent himself feels a faint itching after being there, a physical symptom of this psychic infection, which confirms Norbu's warning. It's spreading.
But Norbu, he didn't warn the agent beforehand.
No. And this is the really disturbing part. Norby knew the bug was spreading, knew the danger, said nothing. His belief. It will swallow this city. And even worse, it will make us all perfect.
Perfect? How? Through mass suicide and madness. That's insane.
It suggests a profound devotion to this entity, a completely warped sense of purpose. It really drives home that idea, knowledge itself as a disease, ancient secrets infecting the modern world, driving people to madness. What kind of perfection comes from losing your mind and will? It's terrifying.
Which leads us straight into the ethical nightmare of government experiments, especially as Cold War paranoia ramps up.
Exactly. Let's shift to Pont Saint Anthony, France, still post-WWII. We find CIA agents Edward and Frank working with a German doctor, Gerhard, conducting psychological operations. PSYOPs.
And what did these PSYOPs involve?
According to Lepine Maudet, they were experimenting with Black Lotus and LSD, mind-altering stuff, the initial goal. Typical Cold War paranoia. Develop a truth serum, or figure out how to induce mass hysteria. They were worried about, quote, Koreans brainwashing our boys. So they started down this very dangerous path.
But there's always a twist, isn't there? Gerhard wasn't just some helpful German doctor.
Not at all. The shocker is that Dr. Gerhard is actually Karateka.
Karateka, the Nazi occult group.
The very same, dedicated to harnessing magic, forbidden knowledge. He was secretly trying to duplicate research from Unit 831, a horrific Japanese unit. He wasn't helping the CIA, he was using them for his own, much darker goals. He tells them the Lotus showed him governments and politics are meaningless, that it would prepare America for the true masters.
True masters. So this wasn't about truth serum at all. It was infiltration, weaponizing ancient evil.
Precisely. And the effects on the townspeople. Horrific. They were dosed with bread laced with Black Lotus. They transformed into this mob of maimed flesh, speaking alien gibberish, croaking through clots of undigested flour, shambling towards the mill in a state of hysteria and exultation. It's pure, uncontrolled madness, a community utterly consumed.
But one agent saw it for what it was. Frank.
Yes, Frank, who it turns out is Delta Green, undercover within the CIA operation.
Right.
He's horrified. He still has a conscience. He burns the research notes, sends a coded report back to his real handlers, and then he performs a mercy killing on Charlotte, the town librarian, who's been completely transformed, lost to the madness.
God, what a choice.
It highlights the dire consequences, how paranoia and the quest for control unleash these horrors, and how truth itself becomes a weapon. Frank's rebellion shows that internal conflict, agents caught between orders and basic humanity.
A recurring theme, it sounds like. The individual conscience against the machine.
And the psychological cost. That's maybe the most persistent thread through all of this. These agents, they aren't just fighting monsters out there, they're fighting to hold on to their own minds.
Yeah, the sources bring us back to an FBI agent, Huntley, in 1948. He's assigned to investigate his friend, Kingman, for HUAC, the House Un-American Activities Committee. It's political.
But as usual, the real story is deeper. It's rooted in shared trauma.
Trauma from where?
From Innsmouth, 20 years earlier. Both Huntley and Kingman were there, and that name, it carries weight in these circles. A place remembered for the old fish smell, for fighting something inhuman, for having to kill a woman who changed, an act that haunts them both.
So Kingman's investigation isn't just about communism.
No. Cayman is shattered, haunted by those memories, those people, those things. He's suffering severe PTSD, falling back into heroin addiction. And Delta Green, even then, has an extensive file on him, tracking his relapses. Hundley carries the scars too, just maybe manages them differently. It shows the immense toll these encounters take. The horror doesn't end when the mission does. It lingers. It breaks people. The silent casualty list.
And does it get any better for agents later on, say in the 70s?
Not necessarily. The horrors persist, but often the support system vanishes. We see Lieutenant Harold Evans, a Delta Green agent, using a taxi driver job as cover. He's confronting a cult and a creature called the Haunter.
The Haunter.
Yeah, it bonds with a host. Its victims, their bodies become blackened pieces of flesh. Faces just gone, bone and flesh and cartilage fused. Horrific systemic destruction.
Jesus.
And the grim part. By the 1970s, officially, Delta Green had ceased ever to have existed. A cosmetic purge, bureaucracy erasing inconvenient programs.
But the monsters didn't get the memo.
Exactly. The threats continued. So agents like Evans are often fighting alone. Broken, isolated, no backup, no recognition. It really underscores the long-term damage. Confronting these things leaves you scarred, discarded, while the horrors just keep coming.
A profound, unacknowledged sacrifice.
Which brings us into the later 20th century, the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and the threats seem to get even more insidious. Not just physical monsters, but things infecting perception itself. Memory. The nature of reality.
Yeah, let's talk about Antonio Chapin, a customs officer in the 1980s. He has this ability, a disturbing one. He sometimes saw the crimes lurking in that person's past, the sins that had poisoned his soul.
And more than that, he glimpsed some hideous truth beneath the surface of things.
Can you imagine living like that, constantly seeing the darkness, the hidden horror? What a burden.
A terrible clarity to be cursed with. And FBI agent Ross Eberhardt knows about these hidden realities. He recruits Chapin to investigate a cult. Eberhardt puts it bluntly, there are groups out there aligned against our way of life, against humanity. They're part of the strangeness.
So setting the stage, not just fighting criminals, but something else.
Exactly. Forces that defy understanding. And their investigation leads them to the Drury compound. And they find a thing. It's described as not shaped like a man, though it was fabricated from mostly human parts.
Fabricated from human parts?
Yeah, limbs that bent the wrong way, multiple stolen faces and hands, and the occasional hoof. The sheer biological wrongness of it, its birth gets burned into Chapin's mind. A deeply traumatic event. It changes him.
Seeing a monster is one thing, seeing a perversion of life like that.
And it doesn't stop there. Chapin's unwanted visions start showing him Eberhardt's past too. And it's a dark history. Mutated babies in Cambodia, some kind of treaty with an entity that infects music, centered in Boston Symphony Hall.
Seriously? An entity in Symphony Hall?
Apparently. And abandoning a professor to creatures linked to an ancient statue. The sheer range of horrors Eberhardt has apparently dealt with. It paints a picture of a world just saturated with this strangeness.
And it changes Chapin's whole perspective.
Fundamentally. There's this moment where he finally listens to a homeless woman, Winona Jackson, someone he previously dismissed as delusional. But she talks about snake people priests. And now, after what he's seen, he listens.
Wow. That's profound. The idea that some people are forced to see the world as it really is, teeming with horror. And that knowledge shatters sanity, but also demands action. A tragic kind of enlightenment.
And this brings up a critical point. The battle for memory. For truth. How do you fight this secret war when the enemy can mess with your head, erase things, implant things, steal what you know?
Memory itself becomes a weapon, a battlefield.
Exactly, a battle for cognitive integrity. And that might be the most insidious threat.
We see this clearly in the story of Margaret Hartford. She learned her trade at Outlook, some shadowy mind manipulation program.
Right, and she's using these potent memory-inhibiting drugs on a suspect, Charles Gaines, making him mentally relive a 30-minute interrogation over and over, fragmenting his sense of reality, of time.
And they use other tricks too, right?
Yeah, cognitive camouflage. Using pig masks and surreal images during the drugged interrogation. The goal? To break up any retained memories. So if Gaines ever remembers anything, he'll just think he was tortured by people in pig masks. Discredits his own potential testimony.
Incredibly manipulative, controlling not just what he knows, but what he believes happened.
And the interrogation itself focuses on specific forbidden knowledge. The King in Yellow, De Vermis Mysterious.
Those infamous fictional grimoires treated as real threats here.
It suggests Gaines has access to dangerous occult secrets. And the lengths they'll go to get it, or bury it.
And this battle for the mind gets even more extreme, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It reaches a terrifying peak with Aiko and the Citadel of Entities, from the last words of Roger Ferris. Roger Ferris, brilliant linguist, abducted by aliens, returned abridged.
Abridged, meaning?
Memories wiped clean. But he gained these strange new abilities, and he becomes obsessed, driven to recover some existential secret he knows was stolen from
So
him.
Delta Green finds him?
Delta Green, now operating as the program, yes. And they bring in Aiko, a specialist interrogator. His methods are described as monstrous, lethal, and astonishingly painful. It's even said each session costs Aiko 3 months of his life.
What? That implies some kind of psychic cost, a life force drain.
It certainly suggests the extreme nature of what they're dealing with, the price of extracting this kind of information. And Ferris, under this torture, reveals something incredible about the Citadel the aliens inhabit. It's not a place, not where, it's when. It exists across 17 dimensions. Length, width, height, time, but also dimensions corresponding to various emotions and language. And the entities themselves, he says they are exotic words, imperceptible, burrowing in and out of stories and poems, Mosses, Nomus, Fialer.
The entities are words, living in language and emotion.
That's the implication, that reality, language, emotion, it's all a medium for these beings, a vulnerable one.
Mind-bending.
Yeah.
And then comes the realization about Ferris himself.
Yes. The agent tracking him, Isabel, has this horrifying aha moment. Ferris wanted to be caught. He orchestrated it. He deliberately subjected himself to Aiko's monstrous psychic torture because he knew it was the only way to finally remember the alien secret ripped from his mind.
Wow. The lengths someone would go to for forbidden knowledge, even using horrific torture against himself.
It's the ultimate horror, isn't it? Your own mind turned against you. Language itself is a gateway for aliens. The desperate, self-destructive quest for lost truth. The psyche is the final battlefield.
So moving into more recent times, post 9/11, you'd think things might change, focus shifts, but the uncanny threats adapt and maybe become even more seductive.
That's a good way to put it. The promise of a twisted kind of peace, a dangerous utopia. Our sources take us back chronologically to post-WWII Japan for this example.
Utopia.
Henry, a CIA agent, Delta Green ties, investigating a Dr. Shizuka Mitsutomi in Fukuoka.
And she's developed something.
A happiness device. Originally a WWII pulse weapon, but she modified it to make people happy.
Sounds potentially nice.
Except this happiness leads people to just disappear. Or take their lives in peaceful acceptance of the pointlessness of life.
Okay, not so nice. How does it work?
It forces the brain, apparently, to adjust to reality as it truly is. But this adjustment involves shedding disharmony, the wrongness of human consciousness, and it causes intense, agonizing pain in the process. Mitsutomi's philosophy is chilling. Our consciousness brings us only misery. We are all insane, slaves to falsehood.
So she thinks human consciousness itself is the problem.
Yes. And her device prepares humanity for greater beings than us. Ancient, in tune with the harmony of the universe. Beings unfettered by the insanity we call sanity. Her goal, to suit us to their purposes, make us compatible tools for some ancient cosmic intelligence.
A cosmic realignment where humans are adjusted, repurposed, horrifying.
And Henry the agent, he's seen inhuman forces before. He feels the pull of the device, the peace it offers. It tempts him.
But he fights it.
He does. He makes the agonizing choice. Destroys the device. Chooses the flawed, painful human reality over this horrifying truth that requires obliterating individuality.
That's maybe the most insidious threat, a utopia that demands total surrender. The idea that our sanity, our selfhood is just a fragile shield against a truth that would annihilate us takes incredible courage to reject that promise of bliss.
And then we see the post-9/11 era, a time of fear, renewed secret operations, and Delta Green gets this controversial, dubious resurrection, officially brought back, sort of, for the war on terror.
But the old problems, the old enemies, they don't just disappear.
Not at all. As we see him passing the torch, William Weeks, a Delta Green agent, he's facing monsters, yes, but also rival agencies, like ACEL, who have their own advanced reality-bending tech. The game got more complex.
And there's betrayal within the ranks, too.
A huge one. Grendel, a former Delta Green leader, he steals this advanced tech. Why? He wants to open the gate in the basement of the Devereaux Mansion in South Carolina for payback against ancient evils. It's personal, twisted.
Opening a gate sounds unwise.
Extremely. What comes out is truly monstrous. A colossal bulk. Like a garbage bag full of shit, sloshing atop 3 somethings that pass for legs. A forest of tentacles. Pure cosmic horror unleashed, causes massive destruction, mutilates agents horribly.
And Weeks has to make terrible choices.
Unthinkable ones. He has to booby-trap his own wounded colleague, Clifton, with a claymore mine. Use him as bait for the creature.
God, the ultimate sacrifice forced on someone else.
And the final blow. Weeks' superior officer, Morrison, transforms into this horned, multi-limbed creature and blames Weeks for everything.
So the corruption goes right to the top. Your allies become the monsters.
It's that terrifying reality. Allies corrupted. Unthinkable sacrifices demanded. Monsters wearing familiar faces. Or commanding former friends. The lines just completely dissolve.
Which brings us to the ultimate cost. What happens when you're exposed to this stuff long enough?
It's not just death or going mad in the traditional sense. It's this insidious pull. This seduction towards something else.
Like Agent Holloway in Boxes Inside Boxes. Tortured by this woman linked to a cult leader, Zognar.
Right. She forces him to stare at this dagger. It has a gem, and something moved inside it. And it's not just physical torture. It causes memory blanks, deep psychological effects. His mind is being subtly compromised, rewired by this artifact.
And then there's Jill from The Lucky Ones, the agent they call Witch Eyes.
Because her eyes literally bleed when supernatural stuff is happening.
Yep.
Physical manifestation.
Horrifying. And she seeks help from a professor.
Veronica, a folklore professor,
Yeah.
who has her own physical reminder. A lost arm that grows back in the winter as this stiff, useless resin limb before falling off again. A constant, grotesque echo of her past encounters.
So they try to confront the source.
They perform a ritual at Dream Lake Fairfield Pond, apparently, to deal with an entity tied to a historical murderer, Eugene Clifford. Jill finds this buried head underground, its eyes open. The spectral Eugene vanishes into ash.
A victory.
A costly one. Veronica dies, covered in the ash, leaving Jill alone, and the entity starts to return. It's that relentless pattern. Sacrifice, horror, temporary wins, terrible personal cost. The fight is never really over.
And finally, the ultimate seduction. Syndemic.
Yes. Ellie, wife of a Delta Green agent, finds a glowing artifact, a wonder, in her husband's safe room.
And it affects her.
Profoundly. It brings her bliss. Euphoria, stronger than when she had nursed her babies. A deep connection, a sense of purpose.
Stronger than nursing her babies. That's primal.
It overrides everything. And the chilling climax. Guided by the artifact, Ellie opens the safe room door. Her family is outside trying to get in, maybe save her. But other Delta Green agents, those strangers from the video, are closing in to contain the artifact. And Ellie chooses the artifact. The bliss. She abandons her family to the agents converging on the house, finds that everything was ready at last.
She chooses the artifact over her family, over her humanity.
It's the ultimate price, not just death or madness, but the subtle, insidious pull of a greater truth, a different purpose that demands everything. Your love, your connections, your very self. Erasing what it means to be human in exchange for bliss, connection to the alien.
Wow. We've really covered some ground today, journeyed through some incredibly deep, dark shadows. From WWII psychops to post-9/11 horrors and that constant, terrifying human cost of fighting for reality itself. These aren't just tales, are they? They're warnings, glimpses into the abyss.
They really underscore how fragile our reality, our sanity might be. It's a constant struggle, it seems, depicted in these accounts. Maintaining our world, our human perspective, against forces that are utterly indifferent or actively hostile and defy easy understanding.
And we keep coming back to those core questions. The cost of knowing too much, the line blurring between us and the monsters, the huge, often unseen sacrifices made by those who stand in the gap, a war fought in secret corners and inside people's minds.
So, maybe something to think about as you go back to your day, as you look at the world maybe with slightly different eyes now. If knowledge is power but ignorance is bliss, what would you choose? If you were confronted with a truth that threatened to shatter everything, how much reality, how much of the uncanny can a single mind actually take before it breaks? Or maybe adapts into something else entirely?
A chilling thought to end on. Thank you all for joining us here on the Uncanny Valley podcast. Until next time, keep looking over your shoulder. You really never know what might be lurking just out of sight.